We will now take a brief fly-through of application development approaches for business connectivity service solutions. In general, there are two types or two modes of approaching BCS development. Those taken by the power user or designer, which is that they may use SharePoint Designer 2010 and they don't want to add additional code. They are happy with the out-of-the-box user experience for inserting, updating and deleting data. They don't want to be bothered with packaging, so they let BCS manage that in a transparent way. Now they can connect to existing back-end systems such as databases and WCF services very easily this way. With Visual Studio, however, an experienced developer can add their own custom code and custom user interfaces and can explicitly manage the packaging as well. We can provide custom back-end connectivity through .NET types. We can also actually start from the SharePoint Designer project and import it into Visual Studio for further customization. So I should reiterate, SharePoint Designer does allow you to create entities from external systems and generate insert, update, delete and retrieval statements for that data. And you can also include SharePoint workflows with SharePoint Designer on that data, of course. Visual Studio will be used when you need to create a custom UI or custom back-end integration logic, perhaps by creating your own .NET type or business data catalog data model. The BCS SDK will be very useful for you as a developer as well. It has tools, utilities, libraries, samples and so forth that you can use to help you get started very quickly. Typical BCS advanced development may include aggregation of data from multiple sources, custom or complex data transformations, custom security, custom business logic, and custom deployment. So perhaps you might create a click once package or a traditional MSI package for installing an offline client solution, for example. So you would use Visual Studio for those types of solutions. Now with BCS development and deployments, the developer may create a WSP, SharePoint Solution package, or a click once package, or even a traditional MSI installer in some instances. And your IT administrator will import and configure the solution and the BDC. Your SharePoint designer may use the designer tool to make a live connection to the data and provide the default URI and the default insert, update and delete statements for a simpler type of solution. So all in all, you have some choice when you start creating your solutions. You have SharePoint Designer and Visual Studio, and in fact they integrate very well together. So you can start with SharePoint Designer and then continue in Visual Studio. And you'll see how to do all of that in the lab for this module. So I highly recommend you take a look at those. We'll also see demonstrations of using SharePoint Designer and Visual Studio to create business data catalog models later in this module.